What? Because you witnessed the accident, you have to go to the hospital as a companion. Is there such a thing as this drama-like situation? If you can't make it, consider yourself fired after today. Despite having an important business dinner, I wanted to head to the dinner as soon as possible, but I didn't have the heart to leave someone suffering right before my eyes. When I contacted my boss, Ryan, to explain the situation, he yelled at me. The call was unilaterally cut off by Ryan. Although the dinner was important, I couldn't leave someone who might be in danger of losing their life. Hours later, after finishing up at the hospital, I headed to the dinner venue. Upon my arrival, Ryan was incredibly angry and started yelling at me. "What the hell are you doing showing your face here?" Just as I was about to apologize to Ryan for the umpteenth time, that's when it happened. President Johnson, the client sitting across from Ryan, stood up and smiled at me. "My name is George. I'm just an ordinary office worker. After graduating from college, I started working at this company as a new graduate, and it's been almost 4 years. The first year was all about getting used to the new environment and workload, and every day was hectic just trying to get used to the job. However, after 4 years, I got used to the job and was leading a fulfilling life. Well, it would have been nice if I could have led a fulfilling life getting used to the job. Hey George, how much longer are you going to take with that report I asked for?" Sorry, I'll be done soon." "Stop dawdling, hurry up." "I'm sorry." The stares from around the office were painful. The one yelling at me was my boss, Ryan. Ryan would always take his anger out on me for anything and everything. Even for things that weren't really my fault, he would blame me and yell. It felt totally unjust. People in the same department knew that I wasn't being scolded for making mistakes all the time. Still, if anyone spoke up, Ryan's anger would turn towards them, so everyone kept quiet. But there were people who did speak to me. "You handled that well just now. Are you okay?" Ryan is too irritable. Many people sympathized with my position and worried about me. Thanks to the people around me, I was able to endure being yelled at and treated unfairly by Ryan. The workplace environment wasn't bad at all. If it weren't for Ryan, I think I could have led a more fulfilling work life. That's why I haven't thought about quitting this job. I just needed to endure Ryan's treatment. That's what I thought. Hey George, you made a mistake on that calculation sheet the other day. Who do you think apologized on your behalf? The next day, and the day after that, Ryan would lash out at me almost every day. It was one day when I was working while enduring Ryan's abuse. I was called by the department head, Max, and told something. A business meeting. "Yeah, George, you've been here almost 5 years, right? I think it's about time you handled a big negotiation." "Really? Am I the right person for this?" Why do you ask?" "Well, it's just that. Surely, Max must know that I'm yelled at by Ryan almost every day." Still, Max wanted to entrust me with it. Perhaps sensing what was on my mind, Max continued with a smile. "Well, regarding Ryan, I think everyone understands. Besides, George, your work has a reputation in the department for being meticulous and precise." "Really?" "Yes, I'm not lying. So, what do you think?" Max's eyes showed no deceit, and it seemed he sincerely wanted to entrust this big meeting to me. I nodded firmly, resolved to make it a success. "If you'll entrust it to me, I'll give it my all." "Good, I believed you'd say that, George. I'm counting on you." Max patted my shoulder and smiled. Before the meeting, I went to the archives to look up past transactions with a business partner. I carried the filed documents from the archive back to my desk. From past meetings, I could understand what strategies would work best with this business partner. I planned to analyze this and approach the negotiation accordingly. This business partner had always been close to our company, and failure was not an option. The amount of money involved was significant, and I was anxious about whether I could handle it alone, but it also motivated me. It took about 2 weeks to analyze the data of the business partner and create the materials. After finishing the materials, I had to set up a dinner for the day of the meeting. Normally, we would hold it in our company or the client's office. But this time, since we have a good relationship with this business partner, I wanted to approach the negotiation in a more casual manner by having a dinner meeting. While I was choosing a restaurant for the dinner, someone called out to me from behind. "What's this, George, making restaurant reservations during work hours?" I immediately knew it was Ryan from the voice. I sighed inwardly and turned to Ryan. "I've been given a business meeting to handle. I was choosing a restaurant for that dinner." To prove it was for a legitimate reason, I turned my computer screen towards Ryan. Ryan seemed impressed and said, "Huh?" Then, he said something unbelievable. "Hey, let me join that too." "What? What's wrong? Can't your boss join? It's always been a company that's been close to us, right?" "Well, that's true, but..." As I hesitated to respond, Ryan's expression quickly twisted into anger. "I'm saying I'll join as your boss, and you disobey me. It's not like that. Obviously, you can't handle a deal this big on your own, so I'm going out of my way to be a part of it." "Understood." As usual, I caved in to Ryan's shouting. When I reported to Max that Ryan would also participate, Max just gave a wry smile. Still, he advised me, "Ryan has experience, so if you have any concerns, you should ask him," even trying to save face for Ryan. As if I'd ask him anything. Despite thinking this, I continued searching for a restaurant for the dinner. And before I knew it, the day of the negotiation arrived. I must make it a success. Ryan might interfere, but in front of the clients, he couldn't act as usual. I checked my watch. There's still some time left until the meeting. I left the office early to ensure I wouldn't be late, but it seems I left a bit too early. That's when it happened. With a screeching sound of brakes, I heard the sound of something large colliding. Turning in surprise, I saw 2 cars had collided head-on. An accident. People started to gather, and I turned my attention towards the scene. The car that was hit had its driver's seat completely crushed, making it impossible to check on the condition of the person inside. Then, a man emerged from the car that caused the accident, and instead of calling for help, he immediately ran away. That guy, is he running away? Since the accident happened right before my eyes, I couldn't just leave it be. Just as I was about to chase after the fleeing man, I heard a groan coming from the car that was hit. Realizing that the person inside was still alive, I stopped in my tracks and approached the car. "Are you okay?" I somehow managed to pull the blood-covered man out from the passenger seat. "Please, I need an ambulance." When I called out to the bystanders, a woman nearby promptly called for an ambulance. While waiting for the ambulance to arrive, I racked my brain for anything I could do to help. Recalling the first aid training held regularly at my office, I started giving first aid to the man. Performing first aid before the ambulance arrived could significantly increase his chances of survival. After finishing the first aid, I took a moment to catch my breath, and that's when I noticed my phone vibrating in my suit pocket. The display showed Ryan. "This is bad." I immediately answered the call from Ryan. As soon as I pressed the answer button, Ryan's yelling filled my ear. "I'm sorry, Ryan. Actually..." I tried to calm down Ryan, who was shouting at me, and explained the situation. However, Ryan didn't seem to believe a word I was saying. Because you witnessed an accident, you're going to the hospital as a companion. Is there such a thing as this drama-like situation? If you can't make it, you would be fired as of today." "Wait, please." Ryan vented his frustration on me and then hung up, Only the harsh tone of the disconnected call echoed in my ears. "Oh, please." As I stood there, disappointed and holding my phone, the man lying in front of me spoke up. "Excuse me. Don't you have an important appointment?" The man was struggling to speak. "No, it's okay." "But..." I shook my head, reassuring the hesitant man. While we were having this exchange, the ambulance arrived. Given the man's serious condition, the paramedics asked me, "Can you accompany him?" I had planned to head straight to the dinner meeting after ensuring the man was safely in the ambulance, but given the request, I couldn't say no. I nodded at the paramedics' words and boarded the ambulance. "Are you really okay?" "Yes, I'm fine." By then, it was already too late to make it to the dinner meeting, and regrettably, I decided to leave it in Ryan's hands. Upon arrival at the hospital, the man was immediately taken to the treatment room. After undergoing various tests, the man was found to have no major issues, but he was advised to stay in the hospital overnight just in case. No, However, there's always a chance of complications. I'm fine. Hearing this exchange from outside the consultation room, I couldn't help but worry about the man's well-being. When the man came out of the consultation room and saw me, he smiled kindly. "Thanks to you, I was saved." No, it's good that nothing serious happened. I don't know what I would be doing now if you hadn't been there." "You're exaggerating." "Well then, I'll be leaving now." After checking the time, I parted ways with the man. The man asked me, could I at least have your contact information, but I respectfully declined. I hadn't helped him expecting something in return. After parting from the man, I immediately headed to the dinner venue. Though about 2 hours had passed, if everything had gone as scheduled, it should be wrapping up about now. Thinking that I should at least apologize to the other party, I hurried. "George, how dare you show your face here?" As I arrived at the restaurant and was looking around for Ryan and the others, he spotted me first and marched over. I braced myself, knowing I was about to get an earful, and sure enough, he started lecturing me. "I'm terribly sorry." "Humph, you got cold feet because it was a big deal, didn't you? Showing up when it's almost over." "No, that's not it. I really did witness an accident." "Proof?" "Excuse me." "Proof? If you saw an accident and helped the victim, then show me the proof." "That's impossible." Ryan knew I wouldn't have any evidence on me when he demanded it. Understanding this made it all the more frustrating that I couldn't present any proof. I hung my head, wondering what to say next. That's when it happened. Ryan, what seems to be the problem?" "Oh, my apologies. A subordinate of mine who was supposed to be here today has just arrived." The person who approached us was President Johnson from the client company. Ryan was yelling at me so loudly that it echoed throughout the restaurant, likely prompting Mr. Johnson to come over, wondering what was happening. Ryan grabbed my arm, still hanging my head, and pushed me in front of him. "Come on, apologize to Mr. Johnson." "I sincerely apologize for my absence today, despite your taking the time to be here." No, please don't worry about it. Ryan provided a very good talk, so I'm quite satisfied. Your words bring me relief." Mr. Johnson smiled warmly. Ryan seemed proud of being praised by him and gave me a smug look as if to say, "See, I appreciate your generous understanding. I will ensure that something like this never happens again." "It's too late for that. A loser like you couldn't possibly make a comeback." I had neither the energy to feel angry nor the strength to retort to Ryan's words. The fault was entirely mine this time. I had arranged the dinner and invited Mr. Johnson, only to be absent for a baffling reason on the day. If only I had ignored the accident, none of this would have happened. Yet, I couldn't bring myself to ignore someone injured just to attend the dinner. Still, It's true that my misjudgment almost caused damage to the company. I wondered what would have happened if Ryan hadn't been there. Despite having helped someone, it seemed like good things were scarce, mocking myself internally. Is this all my life is going to be? Come on, let's head back to the office. You have to write a letter of apology. Yes. After saying goodbye to Mr. Johnson, Ryan and I got into the company car. Just as Ryan started the engine to head back to the office, that's when it happened. There was a knock on the car window. Curious, I looked up to see Mr. Johnson, whom we had just parted ways with. I quickly got out of the car and asked him what was the matter. Ryan, not expecting him to follow us, got out of the car with a surprised look on his face. Ryan, you were demanding evidence from him earlier, weren't you? You wanted proof for why he couldn't attend the dinner. It seemed quite rude the way you were yelling. It's for his education. Education? Mr. Johnson calmly questioned Ryan, who was visibly flustered. Well, I didn't see it as education, but well, let's leave it at that. George. He shifted his gaze from Ryan and looked straight at me. As I stood up straight and met his gaze, he smiled gently. It seems my acquaintance was in your debt. Ryan, this is your proof. Oh. Then, out of nowhere, the man I had accompanied to the hospital earlier appeared from behind him. You are. Thank you for earlier. The man smiled at me and reached out for a handshake. No, not at all. It was nothing. I heard about the situation from him. The man said and then glared at a bewildered Ryan. You, always yelling without listening to anyone, must feel very important, huh? Ryan, intimidated by the man's stern look, seemed utterly scared. This might be the first time I've seen Ryan looking so intimidated. He always seems to be the one in charge at the office. You set me up. Ryan, in his panic, pointed at Mr. Johnson and said with a trembling voice. The three of us exchanged glances, wondering what he was talking about. Ryan, please calm down. I tried to calm a shaking Ryan by placing my hand on his shoulder, but he shook it off vigorously. You all conspired against me, to embarrass me. Ryan, that's not true at all. Then why is the man you claim to have saved here? Let me explain. He smiled warmly and began to tell us the story. Apparently, they were friends. They hit it off when they happened to sit next to each other at a bar one time. Since then, they became drinking buddies who often went out together. The reason the man showed up at the dinner was because, right after parting ways with me, he had contacted Mr. Johnson saying, I was in an accident, but a kind person saved me. Mr. Johnson, checking the message, heard Ryan and me arguing and suspected it might be related. After describing my appearance to the man, it matched the person who had helped him, prompting him to rush over here. The thought that my lifesaver might be in trouble because of me made me so restless I just couldn't stay put. The man laughed shyly. Surrounded by the congenial atmosphere among myself, the man, and Mr. Johnson, Ryan seemed to feel so out of place that he quietly said, I'm terribly sorry, offering his apologies to both of them. Then, eager to leave the scene, he quickly got into the car and, from the driver's seat, rolled down the passenger side window to urge me to get in the car quickly. I thanked them once again before getting into the car. A few days later, something unexpected happened. George, it seems you did a great job. What? The business dinner the other day, we got a very positive response. Despite the meeting not proceeding as planned, Mr. Johnson had given us a positive response. Following that, we managed to secure a larger contract, and the company's performance skyrocketed. Come to think of it, since the contract with the client was settled, an internal investigation had been conducted in the office. The investigation was about Ryan, and his habit of yelling at me had become widely known among the office staff. Furthermore, it was found that Ryan had previously taken credit for his subordinates' achievements. The internal investigation revealed numerous pieces of evidence and testimonies to this effect. Ryan's punishment was a salary reduction, but he apparently felt uncomfortable staying at the company, and, before we knew it, he stopped coming to work altogether. With Ryan gone, Max recognized my achievements, and I was promoted to Ryan's former position. Without Ryan's constant yelling, I was able to focus more on my work than ever before, contributing to the company's increasing performance.